You were not designed to live a small life, and yet, somehow, you started moving slower than your own potential, thinking smaller than your actual capacity and accepting limits that were never truly yours. Not because you chose weakness, and not because you lack intelligence, but because something subtle happened over time, something quiet, something invisible, something that didn't feel like control, didn't feel like restriction, but slowly shaped the way you think, the way you act, and the way you see yourself. You didn't notice when it started because it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It simply adjusted you, in small ways, small enough to ignore, but powerful enough to change your direction. You began to question yourself more than necessary. You began to hesitate in moments where speed was required. And slowly, your natural instinct to move forward was replaced by a habit of pausing, analyzing, and delaying. And that delay, even when it feels small, is one of the most powerful forces shaping your life. Because every second you hesitate, when you should act, you create distance between who you are and who you could be. Powerful people are not defined by perfect decisions. They are defined by movement, by momentum, by their ability to act even when things are not fully clear. And that is exactly what most people lose, without realizing it. You were not born to wait. You were not built to constantly question your next step. And you were never meant to shrink your energy to fit into something smaller than you. But somewhere along the way, repetition replaced awareness, routine replaced intention. And you started living in patterns instead of choices, reacting instead of creating, following instead of leading. And the most dangerous part is that it feels normal. Because anything repeated enough times becomes familiar, and anything familiar becomes comfortable, even if it's limiting you. You wake up, you follow the same sequence, you think the same thoughts, you move with the same hesitation, and day after day, you reinforce a version of yourself that is smaller than your real potential. Not because you want to, but because it has become automatic. And once something becomes automatic, it no longer feels like a decision. It feels like who you are. And that is where most people lose control, without ever realizing it, because they stop questioning the patterns that define their life. You don't wake up one day and decide to live small. You simply repeat behaviors that slowly reduce your range, your confidence, and your willingness to act, until your world becomes smaller, without you even noticing it. Your mind will always give you reasons to wait, to delay, to hesitate. It will tell you, you need more clarity, more preparation, more certainty. But in reality, it's protecting you from discomfort, from risk, from stepping into something unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels dangerous, even when it's exactly what you need. That's why growth feels uncomfortable, because it requires movement before certainty, action before confidence, and trust before proof. But most people never reach that point because they keep waiting for a feeling that never comes, the feeling of being ready. And because it never comes, they stay exactly where they are, thinking, planning, imagining, but not moving. And here's the truth. Thinking is not transformation. Understanding is not change. And awareness without action is just another form of delay. And delay, repeated over time, becomes identity. You start to believe, this is just who I am. But it's not. It's just what you've repeated long enough. And anything repeated can be broken. But it requires one thing, interruption, real-time interruption, in the exact moment where hesitation appears. Because that moment is where everything changes. Not in big dramatic moves, but in small decisions that either keep you the same or move you forward. Every time you act, instead of delay, you create momentum. And momentum changes everything. It changes how you think, how you move, how you see yourself. And once that shift happens, you don't go back. Because now, you see it clearly. You were never meant to live small. You were just trained to slow down, and now you can choose differently.